Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. You are listening to Society Bites Radio. My name is Jillian Beth, and I am an intuitive healer and coach on a mission to empower women by reconnecting them to their inner wisdom. And I'm so grateful to have you here with us today. We are going to have a fun and insightful conversation, I have no doubt, because I have the amazing Lillian with us. Now, on this week's show, we're going to be talking about, are you programmed? And that probably brings up a lot of different thoughts and ideas for people. So I'm really excited to get into this. But you also want to make sure that you stay tuned next week as well, because Lillian will be back with us. And on next week's show, we're going to be talking about authenticity being the new currency. Now, if both these titles don't grab you, I don't know what is going to. But a little bit about Lillian before we start this off here. Lillian is a truth seeker and a master metaphysician. Since a child, she has always been curious, wanting to know the why of everything, learning to live life relying on fate and awakening her clairvoyant senses during different seasons of her life brought her an even bigger desire to be of service. And as to survive and strive, we transcend our needs into helping the needs of others. She believes the future is now, and by being aware of your thoughts, actions, and emotions, they will guide you towards empowering your truth. The future is not an exploration. I think I messed that up, Lillian. You'll have to help me there. But of the past, being a master of your emotions, never become jaded, and take the whole thing, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and embrace the ride, empowering how you show up. The development of your inner peace is fundamental for the development of your truth. Now, Lillian holds a bachelor's degree in psychology and has a solid background in Reiki, energy psychology, transpersonal psychology, energy healing, quantum physics, and metaphysics. You love to learn, Miss Lillian. And she also loves to talk about authenticity, as by understanding our own authenticity, we can in time speak our truth. So welcome, beautiful Lillian.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful Jillian. I'm so excited to be here with you, with everyone that's listening. This is a big, big treat today.
Oh, yay. And it is an absolute treat. We have Lillian and Jillian, and we're going to talk about a really cool topic, being programmed. So I think the best thing to do here, Lillian, is start with what do you actually mean when you say program? Like, what does that bring up for you?
Absolutely. And, remembering that all of us will have different perceptions, different definitions of things. So this is how I see it, how I understand it, and how I feel I can manage, life the day to day and be of service. So it's just an invitation for a different perception, if you will, right? That's not the way things go, but this is definitely absolutely my perception. And what I find helpful is that we can extract different golden nuggets from everyone and then have our own mindset on what we feel that resonates with us, right? But
absolutely.
But for me, so being programmed means that we are a accumulation of emotions, of experiences, and within that, we identify who we are. So it's obviously a very big topic. We could talk for many hours about it, and even days, really. But in a nutshell, right? It's an extrapolation of everything that someone has gone through, has thought about, has been around, experienced. So that creates a certain programming. So to the core of it, it becomes an identification. So I'll give you an example because I always feel examples are so helpful, right?
Yes, please.
So, as an example, right, someone that is a architect might identify that this is who I am because I'm an architect. So it is not what I do for a living. It's not what I love to do with my time. It's not what I'm good at. It becomes who they are, right? What the person is. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a one way of explaining a label, a programming. Another thing that gets us there is the accumulation of all of us saying the thoughts and the experiences is the societal values, right? So depending of what societal values that we live on, and depending of how you identify or not with that, can also be a programming. So a good example with that, I learned this some years ago, and I thought it was such an interesting thing. So as an example, some restaurants have different colors, and the colors identify a trigger in your psyche that makes you hungry,
Yes.
right? I
Yes.
thought it was so fascinating. And within that mindset, if you will, of how advertising plugs in into your psyche, we could go down the rabbit hole and realize that, wow, especially nowadays with technology, it is 24/7, that type of concept of the colors that makes you hungry. It is everything within the mindset.
Oh, it's so true. And I'm glad you touched on that because I immediately began to think about, I've heard of these large corporations spending millions of dollars to find out what triggers people or like what catches their interest the most, from anything down to the words, the smells, and the colors, like you said. And I know that I heard at one point two of the colors that really stand out and tend to grab people's attention are yellow and red. In
But
the first big
yeah,
company I thought about, there's a golden arches,
McDonald's,
and that was the
yes.
first one that popped. Yes, that because there's a reason, guys, why they choose these colors. And from the outside influences, like you're saying, Lillian, to even I'm thinking of our parents, who I believe are 99% of the time very well meaning, right? They tell us certain things and do certain things with us and live a certain way, and all of these different aspects come into our psyche, our being, to really mold and formulate who we are as a person as we continue to grow.
That's exactly the truth. That's the truth. And Jillian, here's the catch, right? Because they're programmed too. So they don't
Yes. Oh,
know,
absolutely. Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
always, I believe truthfully, and I live my life this way. Everyone and everything is beautiful because I don't know. I only know myself. So
Mhm.
I always go with that note that good for them. If that's what rocks your boat, good for you. But as you were reading before, as far as my bio, I definitely am a truth seeker. So I want to know, what is this? Why does this happen? So I have equally the choice to say, yeah, I understand that that's why it makes me hungry when I look at that. And I can respect whether I'm going to take action on that trigger or not. Right.
Yes.
So absolutely. Parents are just absolutely a great example. The environment, your upbringing, and society is truly what dictates your programming. And the catch is whether you would like to live accordingly that way or not, right? Because that comes to
Hmm.
be a choice that we can consciously make. The more knowledge that we have around that type of suggestive programming, then more options that we have to say, no, I want to have the power of choice to say that, no, I like to think this way. I like to make these choices. I want to be aware of my own thoughts, not just what I am premeditated to think or feel or act upon.
Yes. Yes. And that's the important first key. And I love that we're talking about this because what you don't realize, Lillian, the show that we had on last week, we were talking about bringing unity to our culture. And
Yes.
part of the subject matter that we talked about there was having that awareness. And
Yes.
I would like to hear from you, why is this so important? Like, it seems obvious, but why is it important to allow yourself to take pause and to give the space for the awareness?
Absolutely. And again, emphasizing that everything is a choice, right? There's not only one
Mm-hmm.
way, one right way, and the way to do. That these are all choices, and everyone can be informed, and then we can take actions towards anything at all that we decide to for our well-being, and therefore, collectively. But it goes like this. So we first have the programming, the perceived programming, right? The accumulation of thoughts, emotions, and even traumas, really, that we experience
Yeah.
throughout, right? When we're young, when we're adolescent, as adult, and even as seniors, we continue to experience life. Now, what I dive into is what does that cause us? So what happens with all of that? Okay, so we're programmed. We sometimes react and act upon things that we don't even know why because we're unconscious to it. But
Mm-hmm.
right, the point is that we start to acquire labels for ourselves and to others. That's really the core. And the labels, so I'm going to give you the whole thing and then we'll dissect at your pleasure there, Jillian. But the
Thank you.
labels, when we incorporate those labels, so again, I'm an architect. This is what I do, and this is who I am. And if I ever lose my job,
Yes.
I don't ever know what I would do without it because that's all I know. That's all I have ever done, right? As an example.
Mm-hmm.
So the labels create division, right? Because the minute that I say, this is what I am, this is who I am, then I am separating the others that may not be within that mindset.
Mm.
And within that division, it creates judgment. And this is the big one, the big mama. So judgment is a fear, of course, deciding, dissecting within fear and love, right? So obviously the feeling, the mind thought of judgment is far, far away from life and light and love because it creates ultimately separation,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And when we are separated, obviously all humans, this is more of a suggestion, but truly is a fact, right? A scientific fact that humans crave synergy. Humans crave a sense of a belonging, a sense of identification. That's who we are to our DNA. If we go to a deserted island by ourselves, we normally will not strive well in longevity because we need that
Mm-hmm.
interaction, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. It's so true. And I think of what you brought up earlier, which is the labels, what we call ourselves, and how even in casual conversation, going up to talk to somebody, you say, hi, you know, my name is such and such. Who are you? Tell me a little bit about yourself. What's the first thing most people say?
Yeah.
The label they give
What do
themselves
you
is
do?
the work.
Yes.
Right, the work that they do. So when you say, like, oh my gosh, what happens? And I'm sure there's plenty of people listening to this that have experienced it in some way or another, whether you're out of work or losing your job or, what am I going to do with my life? It's like we crave that label to be
Yes.
able to identify ourselves.
Yep. That's exactly it. And it goes deeper, Jillian, because once we continue to identify with such label, there are so many ramifications of it. I'll give you another example.